So how about it? Let's sing our way through 2020. Singing for self-care. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're also going to talk a little bit about my 2020 hopes for all of us. So singing I've been very fortunate that it's been a huge part of my entire life. My mom was always singing growing up. There's videos of my sister and I singing since we were very little. I can't really imagine a car ride without somebody singing along in the car. So music was always just very prevalent in my life, and it was always okay to sing, and not even just okay, but it was always encouraged that my sister and I sing as we grow up. Not that we make it a career at all, but that it was something we would do regularly. And a lot of that also had to do with growing up in the church. There was a lot of music in the church. My mom ran our children's choir, so we were singing in our children's choir growing up, and all of that kind of benefited me in a lot of ways. It kept music in my life, it kept singing in my life, and I think I've, in the past, definitely taken for granted, that's the word, taken that for granted, because the reality is that that's not everybody's life growing up. And I have come across so many students that have a fear of singing. And even for someone who sings growing up, and I went to school for music, I do have a little bit of a fear of singing in public. But it doesn't necessarily have to do with the sound that I'm producing that creates that fear. And I think I've come across a lot of students that either at a young age were not exposed to music very much, so it wasn't something they regularly sought out. And so now they're older and it feels a little bit more foreign. Or I have a lot of students who, while they were younger, were told by someone, their parents, a family member, a teacher, even a choral director, that they weren't good at singing, or some version of that, or to be more quiet, you're too loud when you're singing with a group, and discouraged in some way from singing. And they've realized the great benefits of singing, and they want to get past their past, move on from their past, release yourself from the entanglements of the past. I had a tea leaf reading recently at a winter party, holiday party, and that was a phrase that she told me I should continually say to myself. So I want to pass that along to all of you. You can release yourself from the entanglements of the past, especially if someone ever told you to stop doing music, to stop singing, or stifled your music creativity in any way. We need to absolutely get rid of that. And one of my big hopes for 2020 is that we all stop judging each other so much, especially when it comes to art and expression and creativity. Those are all very subjective things. Even my younger students, who have a lot less fear than older students, adult students in general, children just have less fear of trying anything, but there's still a fear there, and a fear of judgment, and they don't want to sound bad. I just want everyone to take a minute and think about who they like to listen to on the radio. And when you have that artist in your mind, does everyone you know also like to listen to that artist? I guarantee the answer is no. I have a friend who absolutely loves Bob Dylan. Now, I'm not hating on Bob Dylan. He's an incredible songwriter, but I will not listen to him sing because I do not personally enjoy his singing voice. And I'm sure there are people watching that agree with me, but there's also people that agree with my friend who thinks he's one of the best singers ever. I personally am a big fan of Ariana Grande's voice. I think she sounds beautiful. I love her approach to different pitches, but I have a friend who cannot stand to listen to her voice. And what does that say? Does that mean that Ariana Grande has a bad voice? Does that mean that Bob Dylan has a bad voice? And obviously they're two of the most successful artists ever, singers ever. And all of that is to say it's so subjective. So when children or adults are so worried in my voice lessons, or even just people who haven't been taking voice lessons, get so caught up and worried about people not liking their sound, I think one of the things I hope for 2020 is that, one, everyone that's listening to someone who's trying something new or who is expressing themselves creatively, that we have less judgment. It doesn't mean you have to like their voice. You don't have to like the artwork they created or whatever it is. You don't have to like the poetry they wrote. But there is a level of appreciation for what they're working on and the means in which they've decided to express that I would hope that we can all have just a little bit more appreciation for that, because it really is a beautiful thing. And doing something creative is incredibly vulnerable. So I want us as an audience to all of that to really remember how vulnerable those people had to be and how wonderful it is to be vulnerable like that. I think a lot of times when we start judging someone for their expression, it's more because we know we would never do that. We would never do what they just did, right? We would never get up and sing a song in front of people. We would never write a really personal line of poetry and then read it to people. That's such a scary, vulnerable thing. And that person did it and I didn't like it, so they must be bad. And I want us to get away from that. I think if we appreciate that more, if we were like, wow, they did that, that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible that they did that. Whether you subjectively think it was good or not. And then on the flip side, for those of us who are trying new things, or maybe it's not even new, we're trying to express ourselves in a creative way. One of the big things I learned in 2019 is to care less about what other people think of it. Because there will always be a group that enjoys it and appreciates it. And that's really the only reason to do it, to be vulnerable and express yourself in a creative way, is because there's somebody that is going to connect with that. And as long as it's one person, which not as long as it will be at least one person, and that's worth it. Got your head down, putting in the work, you are being vulnerable, you're passionate about it, you love doing it, that is what resonates with people. And I guarantee that if those things are all in line, you're good. You sound good, your art is good, the writings that you're doing are good. And honestly, I feel like this could actually apply to things that aren't in the creative field as well, but that's just my wheelhouse. So we're talking about it in those sort of situations. So one, as the creator, we got to stop caring as much about the group of people that are not appreciating it. And two, as the audience to this, we need to start appreciating it more. All right, so enough about that chat. More about singing. So why do I think learning how to sing, singing more often, singing in a group setting, singing in the shower, singing in the car should be a part of your weekly routine, or personally daily routine, at least weekly routine? Here are a few reasons why. Singing for self-care. Why is singing something that should be part of your self-care routine? There are so many psychological benefits to singing, specifically singing in a group. So yes, singing in the shower, singing in the car, singing on your own have benefits for sure. But singing in a group, which would mean singing in public with other people, has really, really strong benefits. And I've left a number of links below to this research, but I'll briefly go over some of those benefits with you today. Singing is similar to working out in that it releases endorphins in your brain. So people say, oh, you're feeling down, like you should really move around, you should go on a run, you get endorphins that pulse through your brain. Well, You could also try singing in a group because you also get those endorphins that rush through your brain. It makes you feel really, really good. Singing with other people also builds confidence, not just in your singing ability, but in yourself as a person. It's kind of like public speaking. The more you public speak, the more confidence you have in yourself that you can do things that maybe are a little scary. Not necessarily public speaking again, but maybe you'll go skydiving, maybe. If that's scary to you, it sure is scary to me. But if you're singing, you're building confidence, and it'll be more and more easy to feel good about yourself and feel like you can take on things you've never taken on before. Time magazine has an article that I will link below, but it does say that group singing is the most transformative type of singing. And it talks about how when we sing, especially in a group setting, we are sending out vibrations. This isn't woo-doo stuff, this is science stuff. We have vibrations that get sent out, and we receive vibrations from the other singers around us. And that can reduce stress, relieve anxiety, release endorphins. It even releases oxytocin. All of those things help us battle depression. Not that it's a cure. There's lots of other things that you should be tackling if you are feeling depressed, but it does help battle that, and it battles the feeling of loneliness when you sing in a group. This is kind of why a lot of people start to feel really connected to their churches through the music. It creates a community. Even if you never speak to that person next to you, you feel less lonely because you sang with that person next to you. And it really is a physical change that happens within your body. It makes you feel amazing. It's also been found that singers, professional singers, have lower levels of cortisol, which equals lower stress. So even if you're not a professional singer, you can potentially lower your cortisol levels through regular singing practice. I mean, who doesn't want less stress? I know we all could use less stress. Self-care is all about reducing stress and building confidence. So singing is kind of a no-brainer that it should just be tagged on right on in there. Some of you may be thinking, oh, well, I can't sing, so that's why I don't. But the thing is, well, you could go back to the beginning of this video and we could talk about it in those terms where there is such a thing as good singing or not. But on the other side of this, on the self-care side of this, you can reap all of the self-care benefits of singing without being good, or even without thinking you're good. Even if you think you sound bad, singing in a group will release endorphins, oxytocin. It can lower your stress levels, lower your cortisol levels. You don't have to be Madonna or Whitney Houston to reap the benefits of singing that singing has on our physical body. To wrap this all up, my wish for all of us is that as audience members, we can be more appreciative of the vulnerability and work that people have put in. As singers, that we all become singers, every single one of us, and that we add singing to our regular self-care routines. I know I'm always working on my self-care routine, but the one thing that I cannot go a day without doing is singing. And it really does change my outlook of that day if I have time to sing and I make the time to sing. So I challenge that of anyone that's watching this, but also it's a challenge for myself. And I hope you guys have an amazing 2020 and look out for some new content coming your way. Thanks for watching.